The Cleveland Browns are building something amazing this offseason. After a very up and down 2022 to 2023 season, we saw flashes of what the Browns are really trying to build. And this offseason, they're really starting to show that they're trying to come out as a contender for the Super Bowl. Real quick, I do just need to say salute to Jacoby Brissett. Thank you for everything you did for us. That quite literally might be one of my most favorite Browns players that I've ever watched play in the Cleveland Browns Stadium. But without further ado, let's kind of talk about this offseason and really highlight what the Browns are doing right now. So let's start from like the very beginning, right? So at the start, we had some coaching changes. We fired Joe Woods and Mike Prefer, which was our past defensive coordinator and special teams coordinator. And they should have been relieved of their coaching duties. Our defense, in the past game was not bad. We were actually fifth in pass yards per game. But if you watched any games, you saw we gave up a lot of just bombs and just crazy, just long throws and lots of third down conversions. Really killed our team late in the year and early on in the year. Actually throughout the entire year, it just destroyed our team, and our run defense was terrible. We were 25th in rushing yards per game, which is god awful. I mean, that's literally bottom 10 of the entire league. So it's good that he is gone. I think I did like him for a little bit in that 2020 year. I think he had flashes of being a good coordinator, but I just don't think he was consistent enough. And also to kind of give him a little bit of a pat on the back. He tried his best with our defense. I mean, we had good DBs. Linebacker room was suffering crazy injuries. Defensive line was awful, other than Garrett and Clowney, who Clowney was always usually injured that season. So it wasn't really his fault for the rush defense, but at the same time, his scheme was lacking a lot. And then going on to Mike Prefer, I mean, he was a very mediocre special teams coach. I mean, he did win us that playoff game in 2020, but that was a wild year. That was COVID year. His special teams, we were ranked 15th in kickoffs and 12th in punts, so very mediocre, very middle in the league. I think that it's definitely good that we got rid of him and moving on to somebody new. Talking about our new hires, we hired defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz and special teams coordinator Bubba Ventrone. Ventrone was, honestly, I didn't really know about much about him, but I'm very glad we signed him. Ex-Brown player, gonna come in and work really hard with the special teams unit that actually has a lot of potential with Jakeem Grant Sr. And then a future free agent that I will talk about that we literally just signed today as I recorded this video, as well as DPJ, who I don't know if he should play special teams with our wide receiver room, but maybe he still will, but we'll see. Moving on to Jim Schwartz. Talk about a hire. I mean, I was ecstatic that we got Jim Schwartz. Personally, I wanted us to hire Brian Flores. I thought that he was a very hard-nosed defensive coordinator, very aggressive, very fitting to our style with how our players really are with our aggressive and fast linebackers. And obviously we have Myles Garrett. Any defensive coordinator can work with Myles Garrett. But we signed Jim Schwartz, which was just an amazing signing. I can't speak enough about Jim Schwartz and how he's really going to change his defense around. He's going to have an aggressive pass rush scheme. He's really going to let those guys go after him. He's going to try his best to get Myles Garrett one-on-one. And if you get him doubled, he's going to have somebody else to get after the quarterback. So, and that's also going to help our defensive backs look a lot better, who really had to fight when we didn't have a lot of pass rush. So having a more aggressive pass rush will help those DBs really get to run around the field and confuse the quarterback and get more turnovers as well. And then the final coaching thing, I won't get into the smaller coaching changes. I know we defensive back coach Jeff Howard left. We also got rid of Chris Kiffin, our D-line coach. We did keep around Bill Callahan though, which is really good. I'm glad we kept Bill Callahan because he's just an amazing offensive line coach. But the final thing that I wanted to highlight is that Kevin Stefanski announces he will call plays next year. Now, I will say, I'm very 50-50 about this because to me, his offensive play calling is really up here or it's really down here. It's not in the middle. And I don't know. I just feel like he lacks consistency in his play calling. But we don't know. He's been building this offense, and I think this is the year that he truly has the offense that he wants for his scheme on the team. So a part of me being a Cleveland Browns fan just is saying, give him the chance to really prove himself with a full offseason of Deshaun Watson and this new offense and really see what he can do with a more dynamic and fast and versatile offense. So getting into free agency, I know we had a crazy period of rumors where we were trading Nick Chubb. That might have been the dumbest thing I have ever seen in my entire life. Why in God's name would the Browns trade Nick Chubb? Why? It literally would make no sense. But getting on into free agency, we announced that we were releasing John Johnson, safety John Johnson. We created 9.75 million in cap space with that move. I was happy with this move. I mean, it created cap space for us, which we desperately needed. Johnson was a good safety. I think he kind of fell off towards the end, maybe because of Joe Wood's scheme, and I think it was a good move overall, especially knowing what we know now through this free agency period. Then we move on. We re-sign cornerback AJ Green to a 1-year deal. I love this. I love this. Just keep the depth there. He loves the team. The teammates love him. And then Christmas came early this morning. I forget what day this was. I think this was the first day, like the first official day of free agency. Watson's contract was restructured to create roughly 36 million in cap room, which gave us at that time roughly around $20 million in cap room to spend for free agency. And when I saw this, I was like ecstatic. I'm like, oh my God, we actually have money to spend now to fill in these gaps that we so desperately need to fill in. And to me, that was just the start of Andrew Berry's just absolute masterclass of an offseason that he's had this year. So first off, we re-signed center Ethan Posick to a 3-year, $18 million deal. Great re-signing, great extension, whatever. To me, leaving us with Nick Harris, especially after that gruesome injury, I think it was in the preseason, I thought this was a great deal because not only does it give Nick Harris more time to kind of develop, it also brings back a very, very good center. Obviously, when we got rid of J.C. Treader, I was a little bit worried of our center situation. And then when Posted came in, I mean, he was amazing. And I'm very glad that we locked him down for 3 more years to really hold together this great offensive line that we have. And then we moved on to sign so what happened was during this time period, I remember, was Javon Hargrave actually signed to another team. I think he signed to the Niners. And I was like, well, there goes our chance to get a top tier defensive lineman in the league. And I was like, dude, I mean, this sucks. I mean, what are we gonna do now? And then we ended up signing defensive end Ogbo Okoronkwo, I think I'm saying that correctly, to a 3-year, $19 million deal. And when I first saw this, because I honestly had no idea who he was. I didn't really pay attention to him. I've seen his card in Madden a couple times. I was like, who is this guy? And I was like, okay, well, it's a $19 million deal. This has to be like a decent player. So I kind of looked around, did some stat checking. Ogbo Okoronkwo was ranked third highest pressure rate in the entire league last season. That is unbelievable. And when you think about it, you're pairing this guy with Myles Garrett, who was the 4th highest rated pass rusher, and I think he was top 5 in sacks. I can't remember exactly what number he was, but he was top 5 in sacks. That is scary to think about. You have 2 of the top 5 passer rushers in the league based on pressure rate on your edges, which is this is going to be an amazing replacement for Clowney. Now, obviously, he's not as good as Clowney in terms of run stopping, but it's still a very good pass rush substitution. I think it's going to fit very well with Jim Short's scheme of aggressive pass rushing. And then we move on to the next signing, which I just realized how good this offseason was already starting to become after this signing. We signed defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson to a 4-year, $57 million deal. Dude, I was like smiling from ear to ear. I was like, oh my God, this is a good offseason. This is starting to get good. I mean, what else do I need to say about Dalvin Tomlinson? He's a great run stuffer, and knowing how bad our run defense was last year, Dalvin Tomlinson will really help us with the run game. Just even he's not the greatest pass rusher, but I think when you line him up with tough pieces like Myles Garrett, and hopefully Okoronkwo can really turn up and become a great pass rusher for us. Dalvin Tomlinson can really help with that pass rushing and really pressure the quarterback from the inside because he's a big body. I mean, that's a big man. I think he's around 300 pounds. Just gonna get in there, wreak havoc. He's gonna hold his own with the run game, regardless of the scheme that he's in. So, very, very, very good signing, and we're locking him down for 4 years. So then moving on, I think we had like a day or two of just not really nothing happening. I was kind of hoping for a receiver. I know we were kind of in talks with trading for Jerry Jeudy, which started up. But we ended up re-signing Sione Takitaki to a 1-year deal. Great re-signing. Takitaki's an amazing linebacker. Really shined last year and is aggressive. And I'm really excited to see what he's going to do for us next year because he was amazing for us last year when he had to fill in for whoever it was. I think it was Joke. I can't remember who it was, but yeah. By far, this is my favorite signing of the offseason. We signed safety Juan Thornhill to a 3-year, $21 million deal. I can't go on enough about Juan Thornhill and how much of a good signing this is. 2-time Super Bowl champ with the Chiefs. He affects the field in many ways, and he is a great replacement for John Johnson. He's a great communicator. He knows what he's doing on the field. He knows where people should be on the field. He's a ball hawk safety. He can also make tackles. He had 71 tackles in 2022. He had a sack. He also had 3 picks. And when you look at our safety room, or our defensive back room in general, Grant Delpit's a very aggressive safety. He can play up in the box, and he can also play in coverage, but he can really get up and make tackles. I think he was our leading tackler last year, if I remember correctly. I'm not sure if that's correct, but he was up there in tackles with us. And you give, Grant Delpit the freedom to do that now when you sign Juan Thornhill because he can really look at the whole field and make sure everything's in place and make sure everybody's where they're supposed to be. So this is a unbelievable signing, not only for player skill, but also just for overall affecting the field and making quarterbacks really think twice about where they're throwing the ball. Then we moved on to some smaller signings, still great signings though. We signed defensive tackle Maurice Hurst, which I thought was a good signing. It's a good depth piece. He might be able to fit in. He probably will end up fitting into that number 2 defensive tackle spot. And, he has a lot of upside, but his injuries have really held him back as a player. So hopefully he can stay healthy, and if he does, maybe he'll be a great player for us. We also signed Tristan Hill to a 1-year deal. Another good depth piece. Then we went ahead and signed tight end Jordan Akins to a 2-year, $5.2 million deal. I really like this signing because he played with Deshaun Watson in Houston, and he had some of his best career years with Deshaun Watson. So this is great because you're bringing in a familiar face for Watson. You're also bringing in a lot of competition into the tight end room. Obviously, we have Njoku and Bryant right now. You bring in Akins, and that brings in a lot of competition. And knowing Stefanski's offense, he likes to play a lot of tight ends. So be on the lookout for Jordan Akins to probably have a very decent year for us. Moving on, we signed cornerback Mike Ford to a 1-year, $2.25 million deal. At first, I thought this was more of just a depth piece for defense, which it probably end up will being. But Mike Ford actually is more highly praised for his special teams play, and I think that's great. I think it's good that we're really focusing on every little aspect of our team. Moving on, we signed Josh Dobbs back to a 1-year deal. Great signing. Fill in that quarterback room. Familiar face with the Browns. And an absolute preseason warrior, by the way. That dude was amazing in the preseason. And then we signed linebacker Matthew Adams. Again, another depth piece. And actually, I was very worried that this was going to be our linebacker signing, which it isn't. Matthew Adams has actually played for the Colts when Bubba Ventrone was special teams coordinator. I think he was a top 5 graded special teams player. And I think that's amazing for us. We're getting 2 very solid special teams players in Mike Ford and Matthew Adams. One of those being Matthew Adams playing previously for Bubba Ventrone. So very, very solid signing, really beefing up the special teams, making sure we're focusing on all aspects of the field. And then moving on, we got very good news as we re-signed linebacker Anthony Walker to a 1-year deal. I can't speak enough about how excited I was for this because I was very scared we were going to be left with Jacob Phillips as our starter, who I think can take over, but he suffered that injury last season, plus he's still very young. I think re-signing Anthony Walker is great because he is a good linebacker. I won't say he's a top tier linebacker because realistically he's not. But for Cleveland, he is an amazing linebacker. He's familiar with that linebacker room, and he's got that veteran experience to really help out the young guys. And just when he was in, the defense looked a lot better. So I'm glad we re-signed him. Good to have him back for another year. Hopefully we can re-sign him for longer. But then my second favorite move of the entire offseason. We had that second round pick. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what we're going to do in the draft this year. We always find a way to find a gem in the second, third rounds, but we have no second round picks now because we trade our 2023 second round pick to the Jets for Elijah Moore and a 2023 third round pick. Dude, I was like, oh my God, we got a receiver because originally I thought we were going to trade for Judy. And I was seeing the rumors of, oh, we're going to trade Greg Newsome in a second for Jerry Jeudy. I'm like, dude, please do not do that. That's way too much for Jerry Jeudy. I was very worried we were going to give up Greg Newsome. We didn't. We ended up getting an absolute stud for only a second round pick, and we got a third round pick back. So now we have 4 third round picks, maybe 5. Elijah Moore may not have the stats to really show that he's a very good receiver, but he is an amazing route runner. He ran a 4.34 at the combine, so he's very fast. And obviously our offense needed speed. I mean, Anthony Schwartz had it, but he wasn't really catching enough passes to really prove himself as a good receiver. So getting Elijah Moore is amazing because he was very underutilized on the Jets, and having this receiver room with Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and Donovan Peoples-Jones, and David Njoku, that's going to make him have more time to shine, really. And I think we're really going to see Elijah Moore's true athletic performance with the Browns. And not to mention, he's still on his rookie contract, so we're not really spending much on him. It's only $1 million like every year. So that's a great move. Really helps out the cap room situation, really helps out our receiver room situation. And then moving on to what just happened recently was the Marquise Goodwin signing of one deal. I love this signing. Marquise Goodwin is a veteran wide receiver, still super fast, still reliable. And like I said, he's got that veteran experience to help out the young guys and just bring a lot more competition to the wide receiver room. And you may see him on special teams too. I want to end off this video really just giving a grade for this offseason. I think if I had to grade this offseason, because me personally, I feel like this is one of the best off seasons that I have witnessed as a Browns fan. And I've been a Browns fan since I was born, honestly, even though I can't really decide that when I was born, but I was since 2002. I mean, this has been an amazing off season. We still have time to make signings. I would give this an A- off season. Only reason I say that is because obviously, the thing that really scares me is that Kevin Stefanski is still calling the plays. While I do believe in him, there is that side of me that is just remembering what he did last year and even the year before with all the Baker and Beckham drama and just, I don't know. He's had a lot of inconsistency and he has regressed as a coach since 2020 where we went to the playoffs. I think we were 10-7. After that, we were 8-9. Then we were 7-10. So he's regressing. But hopefully with a full offseason with this new offense, with Deshaun Watson, hopefully getting back into his elite form, maybe he can really do some great things. So I'm keeping it. I'm keeping positive as a Browns fan. And I think if you're a Cleveland fan, no matter what, you can't not be excited for this season. What we're doing is different than every year. I mean, we're really bringing in pieces that is completing the team. So this has been an amazing offseason. I can't wait to see what we do next. I'm going to cover a lot of Brown stuff. I'm just going to cover a lot of theoretical stuff, cover more signings, cover the season, and yeah, it should be an exciting season. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you subscribe if you're a Browns fan. I'll see you guys in the next video.